Banza.
Yes, people, welcome to another episode of the LIS podcast, live from my house. Good to be back. So today I bring my good friend Morgan Beale, who is a physio, and I'll let him talk a little bit about himself, introduce himself, just name where you're from.
Yeah, cool. Well, how close you want to get into it where I'm from?
As close as you want, man.
I suppose just mixture of working in sports, working in a clinic, keeping busy. West London. Yeah, this is probably about. Well, we can delve more into it, I suppose, can't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, working in West London, rugby mainly, Australian rules football over the summer. Keep me ticking, and straight back into rugby as soon as the rugby season picks up. Just constant clinic work throughout the week.
Yeah, so
fun,
interesting. So we're gonna, I feel like it's very easy to talk about the rise and the journey of the player, and the training and the different things that you have to go through. The adversities or the mental toughness, or I played horribly that game, I came back, or I got injured and suddenly I can't play for a year. That held me back from making it to this part, and then that mental, which is great, and I hope to have those conversations as well in the future. But I thought no one's ever asked about the physio. For people, especially in the amateur level of rugby, where a club is fortunate enough to have a physio, the physio is just sort of there.
We're working
they're working in the shadows. They're there to help you on the game, and on game day, make sure if you get injured, they help you out, tape you up, whatever. But no one knows the ins and outs and the things. So that's why I thought it would be really interesting to have a conversation with Morgan, who is on the rise of his physio journey of
on the rise,
trying to find his place in this world.
Yeah, man, we're getting there.
So, you know what? Let's kind of introductory part done. Let's do a little bit of an icebreaker.
Yeah. What you got?
I know that. I try to adapt to my guests and their interests or what they do.
Yeah.
So Morgan is very interested in basketball and NBA. So we're just gonna do the very unique creation that I created myself of blind rankings.
Blind rankings. Okay,
Never seen before on TikTok or anything like that. So blind rankings of greatest NBA teams. I feel like it's easy to go players.
Teams. Give me some details. Do you mean
I mean a championship winning team.
Oh right, with you. So 2002 Lakers kind of thing.
Yeah. So a championship winning team from either a year or for a couple of years. So
so dynasty kind of.
Yeah, dynasty or just a unique. It could have just been a unique one-off year.
Right.
So. Let's keep it recent, because I feel like it's easy to just say Chicago Bulls 90s.
And then or Celtics in the 60s, right?
Yeah. So
right. Okay.
I haven't watched NBA too much recently.
Okay.
But okay. So I'm gonna give you a team, and then you just decide what rank you put it in without knowing what comes next.
Is it 1 to 5?
Yeah. So I say a team, you say, that's a 4.
Oh yeah.
But then let's say the other team, the next team that comes. You might have thought that, that's the fun in it.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, too much explaining. So let's keep it recent. The Lakers 2020 COVID NBA champions.
Controversial third. Yeah.
Well, controversial as in where you placed them, or controversial as them winning it?
A bit of both. We can touch on that later.
Yeah. So. Just very recent.
Yeah.
Okay. Next we have. Was it?
I can walk you through the
Nuggets.
Nuggets.
They won it. Was it last year?
Yeah, last year. 5th.
Fifth.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've only won one championship.
Yeah,
so
but I'm talking that team.
that team. Yeah, still fifth.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to. I'm picking really random ones. Let me think. Let's go Cleveland Cavaliers 2016.
A little bit before my time, in terms of paying attention to basketball, but
That team.
that's got like what LeBron, Kyrie,
LeBron,
JR
Kyrie, Kevin Love.
Oh yeah, second. He had a lot of players in their prime there. A lot of players in their prime.
I mean, I think so. We've said three. So second, Cleveland.
Yeah.
Fourth.
No,
third was Lakers.
Yeah, 2020.
Fifth was Nuggets.
Nuggets last year.
Okay. So keeping the recency bias, was it 2022 Bucks?
No, I go
fourth.
Yeah, good team, but they've added some pieces now which make them even better.
Okay.
Just haven't had, favors haven't been in their odds haven't been in their favour.
And then was there one more?
Yeah, literally just first, which is gonna screw me.
First.
It's when you get like Celtics 2008 or something.
No.
I think they won in 2008.
Yeah, they did. They beat the Lakers.
Yeah. The Lakers bounced back and got 2009 or something.
2009.
Kobe's last.
2009 and 10.
Oh yeah.
I remember Gasol won too.
Right. Yeah. With you.
Let me think.
Give me a team.
Raptors.
First. Oh, they got to go first, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like, they're Kawhi and a few other.
Yeah, they had.
They were quite good.
Was that the year? Was DeRozan still there? Nah, DeRozan went to the Spurs at that point.
I think so. Yeah.
I think he just missed that one.
Is that famous semi-final shot?
Yeah.
Kawhi's shot at the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So NBA. I feel like NBA is interesting. I find it very hard to watch personally.
Well, like a whole game.
So much timeouts.
Yeah.
Like that's. I mean, it doesn't help that it's on at 2 a.m. But like, it's the timeouts.
Yeah.
It's just constantly. It's like what, 30 seconds to 2 minutes, maybe.
I don't know.
No. I mean, like a whole. Like, let's say you're watching the first quarter.
Yeah.
Right. The first quarter is like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
A quarter is 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, how long are they playing for? Like, it could be 30 seconds, but then it could be a couple minutes. Like, because basketball's a very anaerobic sport anyway, with the constant sprinting up and down.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I find it hard to watch 4 quarters. Like, but just because of the timeout, because like the highlights and the skill level in basketball is in the NBA. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes it's easier to catch the highlights.
Yeah, it's just, and because so much is gonna change, like it's just constantly up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe watching sports like football or rugby, or maybe even tennis growing up didn't sort of shape that perception a little bit.
Yeah,
because you're watching a sport, like especially football and rugby, that it's just a constant. It's going on.
Yeah. Very minimal breaks, I suppose.
Don't get me wrong. You might get the odd games where the ref is just blowing everything.
Yeah.
Penalizing everything, but in general, you're watching a full flow, and it's a bit slower compared to basketball. But that's what I think.
I feel like it's very catered towards in-person attendance.
Yeah,
and then to watch a game at home. First of all, obviously you've got the American timings. Occasionally they'll do like an earlier game, game in terms of here. Like I might tip-off might be at 8.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's harder to watch on TV just because, as you said, you've got all the timeouts, you've got ad breaks, all that sort of stuff. Whereas when you're in there in person, like you've got all the timeouts, you can go get a drink, you can go to the toilet, etc. Go get a hot dog if you want to, wherever this, in the stadium.
In a football or rugby game, you've only got half time really. Otherwise, you're missing the action.
Yeah.
Like massive queue at half time for everyone to get a drink or go to the toilet.
Yeah, you end up missing like the last 5 minutes of the first half, the first 5 minutes of the
That is true. I've never thought of it like that.
You're missing 10 minutes of the game you paid for.
No, but I've never thought of the NBA of watching a basketball game.
Yeah, with you.
Where like in and out. Like it's probably a lot much more relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah,
Probably there a lot longer as well.
yeah. We earlier this year in March, there was like a few games that whatever broadcasting thing that they use. Anyway, they're on Amazon Prime or like some sort of particular channels. Like you can watch them on UK TV over here. So I watched one, but yeah, we started at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it was done by 10:30, 11.
Yeah, that's 3 hours. You're at a place. That's a long time to be at an event.
Yeah,
like for a sport event.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly right.
Yeah. So let's speaking of keeping it in sport. Let's talk about your passion for sport and sort of how it started. Really.
I suppose most UK boys start playing football really. So yeah, I was doing football from a young age. Just like Saturday or Sunday league, whatever it was. And then I picked up karate as well. So yeah, that was good fun. So I was doing football at school, and then that became club. Club football. And then kind of got fed up with that, so I left that. I was doing karate for a little while. Got my black belt, which is pretty cool.
I think I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I don't know, maybe like sixth youngest or something like that. I don't know. There was Sensei told me some statistic in his. I'm sure people have obviously like overtaken me now. I think I was like sixth youngest or something silly like that to get a black belt. But yeah, I got my black belt when I was like 12, 13.
12, 13?
Yeah, man.
Wow. Yeah, how long was you doing karate for?
Picked up about 6.
Okay.
Yeah. It was good fun. And then, so I then left that, and then I wasn't doing anything for a little bit. My mum just turned around to me and was like, "You're not doing nothing." So then I picked up athletics. I was meant to go into triple jump, but my coach then really realised that I wasn't really suited to triple jump. So, ended up doing long jump 400. And then, here we are, really. Gave that up. First year of uni, just wasn't enjoying it so much anymore. So I did those for about 5, 6 years. And then, just carried on with the gym, really. I suppose doing the athletics training, it wasn't just like run. Like there was a few bits of S&C in there as well, a few bits of rehab whenever you're injured. My coach had the same degree that I now do, I now have. So like if I had an injury, then he'd basically sort it out, which was pretty cool. And then, nice segue into the gym, and I just felt like I wasn't just a randomer going up on my first day. Like I already had kind of a bit of a foundation to know what to do. So when I went my first session by myself, I was,
so how much? Very yes and no question. How much would you'd say doing athletics is what pushed you towards the physio side?
Definitely. I don't think if I joined that squad, then I would be doing what I'm doing now. I knew I wanted to do something physio-esque, but just having the coach there, the sports rehab qualification. So in essence, sports rehabilitator would be my job title. But when you work in amateur sports, no one understands sports therapist, sports rehab, like whatever you are. It's just physio. Yeah, it's just kind of like an umbrella term. We're not allowed to really label ourselves as physios, but it's just what you get called.
What's the difference between a physio and a sport rehabilitator?
Probably say so physio does. Again, from my understanding, I haven't done the course, but from what I've understood and what I've spoken to people about, is physio is a lot more broad. So like when you're doing your degree, you won't just learn what's called like MSK, and musculoskeletal stuff. You won't just do basically what I'm trained in. You do like respiratory stuff. You do you might be like in the ICU. You might be in pediatrics. Like you might do all those. You need to prep yourself all those kind of rotations when you go through the NHS. Whereas as a sports therapist, sports rehabilitator, you kind of get that segue straight into MSK work. But then also you don't have to necessarily go into NHS. I know like a bunch of sports therapists, sports rehabbers that have gone into NHS. I chose not to. I know that I wanted to work in sports and work in a clinic. Went straight into that sort of stuff.
Fair enough. Interesting. I didn't know that there was that much of a disparity between the two.
Yeah, you could probably argue that sports rehab is kind of like a blend of the musculoskeletal physio side of things, and then also like an S&C degree.
Yeah.
So like when I did my S&C masters, I found it a lot easier to pick things up because we really kind of touched on that with the rehab degree, compared to some others that were coming from like sports science, that were coming from physio, that they just found a few of the topics a little bit more difficult to grasp because they hadn't been introduced to it a year or two ago.
So it's always the case. It's always the case that when you move on to postgrad, you got, just because it's not always necessarily the person studying the direct undergrad to the post, in terms of like units and topics, like.
Yeah, definitely. But then if I went to, on the flip side, if I went to go and do a physio masters, there'd probably be things that I would have struggled to pick up with, obviously other students.
So what, it's going to sound like a very basic question, but I feel like it's important to gauge your feelings and opinion on this. Why is the umbrella term physio so important in sports and in a sport team?
What, in terms of, like, regardless of like what qualification I've got? And
regardless, like, obviously, ideally, the more qualifications, the better. But from the very top level to the very bottom level, why is it so important for that to be a part of a squad?
I suppose it's just medical care at the end of the day, isn't it? Maybe you could argue that players probably play a little bit better if they've got medical care. There's nothing worse than turning up to a contact sport. You name contact sport, but it's nothing worse than turning up on a Saturday and you haven't got anybody there, or like first aiders will do, which is that's the minimum requirement you need in amateur rugby, but at certain levels. But I think just knowing someone that is there that's got your back probably helps. So I think just having physio, whoever it may be, it's your dedicated role as well.
So from someone being really qualified to someone that just knows how to use a first aid bag.
To be fair, any medical care you can get is better than none. I do think perhaps in some circumstances you probably, regardless of whether or not they're emergency first aider, they've got all the pitch side trauma qualifications in the world, it's kind of a sliding scale. If you've got someone there that's on the weekend that's doing their dedicated role, not like a player physio or not like like a player that's a police officer, but then there's also emergency first aid training. Like that's brilliant to have, but they're playing and they might not see something that's happening like 20 meters this way. So just having anyone medically trained, regardless of whatever level that is, on the sideline specifically to do that job is better than nothing.
Of course. So let's talk a little bit about. So obviously you physio in rugby predominantly.
Yeah.
So how did rugby start essentially for you? And why rugby as well?
Why rugby? So I had a few placements as part of my degree. You had to get about 400 hours throughout your second and third year.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, man. But so what? Yeah, it basically ends up being like 4 to 6 week blocks of placement over the 2 years, final 2 years of the degree. Just had the placement at London Welsh in Richmond. I absolutely loved it. And then I asked to go back there again, absolutely fantastic. I loved the formal, informal kind of atmosphere, traveling with teams. You just like, you are part of the team as much as you do kind of work in the shadows, and that's where it started really. And then as we all know, kind of COVID happened along that time. Fast forward a few years, rugby started up again, and then my placement supervisor, or ex-placement supervisor, after I'd graduated, she needed some help with a few away games during the summer, so I did those for her. And then also she was like, there's a job coming up at Wasps. Do you want to go for it? Because she knew Martin, who you guys have spoken about on the podcast previously. So yeah, that's how we got there really. A month into that, picked up London Welsh under-18s because they started their like Colts Academy again. So yeah, that's kind of like where the love from it came. I didn't really pay attention to rugby at all. I'm not like a die-hard rugby fan that's been going to like England tests since like, I was 12 or whatever. I wasn't really interested. Dad's a big rugby fan. Mom's a big rugby fan. Come from a New Zealand family, so I was born there as well. So says enough about the rugby culture. But yeah, that kind of started the love for it. So and then just picked up as much rugby as I can, and then obviously a few other things along the way. But actually, that's kind of what started it really.
Yeah. So with Wasps, was that? Would you say that was your first senior role?
Yeah. So like, regardless, I was still in education at that point. So I'd graduated from my undergrad, and then it was literally like the first month of my postgrad that I started. So it was quite nice to kind of balance that alongside.
Yeah. So what was that? So obviously, when you did your placement, you were working with. Were you working with senior players or like?
Yeah. It was all senior men.
It was all senior men.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so interesting. So what was it like working with senior men for the first time? Because obviously, like you're probably young, 18, 19, 20-year-old.
Yeah.
You're working with people that are grown men that have seen life and they've probably seen lots of things on the pitch that you have, like from experience as players that maybe you haven't come across yet in your early days.
Yeah.
But what was that like, and what did you take from it?
Quite chilled out, really. I think, again, I can only speak in the two sports I've worked in, obviously rugby being the main one. I can only speak from that. It might be different in other sports.
Yeah, of course.
All the same, but yeah, just welcoming is probably the best word to describe it. Regardless whether I was learning, regardless whether I was a student, like as much as I was only there for 6 weeks. Just welcoming. And yeah, everybody knew that I was there to learn. Obviously, you got the main lady there that was overseeing everything, but they were happy to let me watch. They were happy to let me take in as much as I could, really, which is probably the beauty of having a placement at an amateur club setup. There's not so many rules and regulations in there compared to if I went to, for example, London Irish when they were still a thing. Because I know like a few students went across to London Irish for placement. And as far as I know, they were a little bit limited in what they could do and what they could see, purely because like you're working with professional players, you're working with international players. So you probably couldn't do as much there. And like just so many more. Like we had supervisor and then two of us. So obviously it's really easy for her to teach us things. But when you've got one supervisor or two supervisors to like 8 to 12 people, it's a very different story. So
I mean, on paper, like you would think the professional club looks like better experience in a way. On paper.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you got London Irish on your CV,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying from the CV. But in terms of practicality, like how.
I suppose again, I could probably comment more if I went there.
Yeah, but you're talking from what you've heard from people that you.
Yeah. So it's all.
I mean,
it's hearsay, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's appropriate to think, well, there was 12 people that they're having to share things with, but where I was, there's only 2.
Yeah. I think
it's probably easy to get an idea of how much they. If there's more people, there's less things to do, isn't it? Like
don't get me wrong. I would love to go to London Irish.
Yeah,
they got unfortunately whatever's happened has happened now, but amazing setup.
One club at a time at this rate.
Amazing setup, amazing players. But yeah, like I think I'm always going to prefer the amateur route because that's how I got to where I am now. That's how directly from that placement. That's how I made the contacts and actually got the positions where I am now.
Okay, so what kind of responsibilities did you have when you first in your first placements? Like,
talking a few years ago now, man.
I'm pushing you to the limit.
Yeah.
Like, really digging through the
Memory
archives.
Eagle.
Just basic, like, just like, what were the first things you ever did compared, like, you never done that before going on placement sort of thing?
I think as much like injury assessment is probably it's probably the biggest challenge, I think. Injury assessment, and then your diagnosis is probably the biggest challenge for students. Just because you don't have that experience, you don't have the confidence to back yourself. Like, it could be, okay, so it could be this, or it could be this, or it could be this.
So let's say Clive comes in. He hurt his ankle in the last game. Clive comes in.
Yeah.
Just talk me through that. Clive is the first guy you've ever assessed an injury with.
What, as in like what I do, or
like, as in what you do, like what you would have done?
Yeah, what I would have done.
Like, I mean, so I'm kind of talking. You know what? Wait, let's scrap that a little bit, because I'm thinking of when you were at Wasps.
Yeah,
and like how you'd have the Thursday to come check things out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then like say.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to walk you through the whole like medical procedure.
Oh, well, was it the same way was you only there for game day, or was you there training as well?
Oh, right. Yeah. So during the placement, training and game days.
Okay, so let's say so someone got injured.
Yeah.
On the Saturday.
Yeah.
They come for training to follow up.
Yeah.
Well, your first time ever.
Yeah,
just talk us through that a little bit.
Listen, it's probably the biggest thing. That's probably the biggest. Like, 70% of the information you need will come from what the person says. Such a powerful tool, underrated tool. But yeah, it just is. It's a difficult one, because when you're on placement, there's how you do things freely in like the real world, but then also you've got in the back of your head, okay, I've got an exam coming up, they're going to test me on A, B, C, D, and E. So you basically, what I was trying to do anyway, I was trying to replicate everything that I would have to do in an exam, just to be a little bit more confident when it got to that. So it wasn't as free as I would do it now. Like, if I want to miss one or two things out because I'm confident, and that's not the case, I miss it out now. Whereas like when I was placement, obviously you got supervisors kind of looking over your shoulder, but like you're doing literally things by the book. That's probably the best way to describe it. It's quite a hard one to describe, because it was so long ago, but then also it was interrupted a little bit by COVID. So we probably got out of those 8 weeks, probably only got about 5.5.
Okay, so the thing that stood out to me the most, from what you said, is the listening.
Yeah.
I feel like such a basic thing, transferable across anything you do in life.
Yeah.
But listening, I mean, that verbal description of how they're feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you've got like, in the top level, you've got these fancy whatever MRIs, X-ray. You know, like I don't know, football club, click of a fingers, you're sending. So it's interesting to hear listening. That's
but you got a lot more time pressures when you're working at that level. Like,
that is true as well.
You know, like half the time when you're working in amateur sports, especially like London, West London, really, like you got quite a lot of tradesmen that are working in London, but then also playing some sort of contact sport. So like my first thought is, okay, cool, how can we get them back to work? Forget rugby, forget whatever they're doing, how can we get them back to work? Because ultimately they can't work, and they can't earn, they can't live, you know. And that's in that listening section, like that'll be probably one of the things that's probably quite prominent, I suppose. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to work, or I've got a big job coming up this week and I can't do it. PE teachers that have got their arm in a sling, you know.
Yeah, I've always, one of the big reasons I wanted to start this whole podcast was because of things like that, where the whole balance, the whole how different things interlink. I mean, I feel like it's not looked at enough, and a lot of sport is voluntary. From the coaching and playing side, you're playing because that's what you do for fun. That's what you like to. you like to play. You like to play football with, and then socialize after or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting to know. I mean, I feel like when you think about it objectively, I say if you're a builder or a labourer of some sort, I feel like objectively, it's rugby's probably not the smartest thing to do. Like,
not at all.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's loads of times where you play rugby, you're just a bit sore and you're fine.
Exactly.
But I think it's just the risk factor more than. It's just like if you're thinking about the chance of something going wrong because you're putting yourself in a position where it can.
Yeah.
Like,
your head's got to be fully in it. People ask me why I don't play all the time, and that's literally the reason. I am useless if I'm injured. I genuinely.
Yeah, I used to know someone that was completely unrelated. I used to know someone that was a dance instructor.
Oh yeah.
Very good dancer. Very well known in that field or whatever. Like just Latin dancing. He used to play football. He was, from what I heard, he was a good football player. I think came a time he chose the dance. He had to pick between the two. He chose the dancing. I think there was one time I was like, hey, we play five-a-side on a Monday or whatever. And he's like, maybe once or something, but I can't teach dancing if I injure my. And this is football we're talking about. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe whatever physical activity you do, whether it's just standing up to walk across the road, you're at risk of getting injured. That's how I see it. I mean, it's a bit extreme, but I think that's the reality. Whatever movement you do, you pose a risk. Obviously, the more dangerous the more extreme and dangerous the movement, the higher the risk. But
it's medical brain there, mate. You should see the things go through my head. Roller coaster on a pit, no, thank you.
So let's talk about wasps. Firstly, I just want to link back to your London Marsh experience. How important was that experience in building your confidence to work at wasps, where the physio stuff was all you like?
Fundamental, probably be the best way. And I couldn't have asked for a better placement supervisor. She was fantastic. To the point where, we were doing all that sort of stuff with London Welsh during those placement block periods, and then as I said, she then needed someone to come with her to a few pre-season trips. That's exactly what we did. And we were, I can't remember where we were. We were in a stadium in Wales. Basically, it was literally get to London Welsh at 8 a.m. and then go across. But so she, I met her there, and she was handling the first team. I was handling the second team, but I didn't know that. I thought we were just kind of I was going to be her shadow for the day. Cool, more than happy with that. Extra few placement hours, but literally came to the second team game, and or maybe it's Cardiff Blues Stadium. I'm not sure. It's definitely in Cardiff, but. And then she was like, cool, over to you. And then we kind of did a role reversal where it was me taking the lead, and then and then her obviously just kind of shadowing in case I needed some help. So that was pretty cool. Again, massive confidence booster to, I suppose, be on the front foot, but then also have, if things go wrong, got someone right there.
So you're thrown in the deep end of a rope attached.
Yeah, basically, with a life way. And then we had another one. I think London Marsh were playing Bracknell away, and similar sort of scenario. But there were two games on at the same time. She was doing the first team game. I was doing the second team game. So it's quite nice to again have sole control of that.
Was that something she built you up towards?
Yeah, I think so. Without me knowing, I think that was kind of her plan.
But she didn't just it wasn't your first game, that's what you were doing.
Yeah, no, this was during the summer. So way after the placement.
Okay. So now let's talk about wasps.
Yeah.
So obviously someone knew someone who knew someone introduced you to Martin.
Community, really, isn't it?
And long story short, you're at wasps.
Yeah, we are, man.
So what did you have any goals when you first started at wasps? Just give pretty damn good medical care, really. I think
yeah, for whatever reason, I mean, again, I wasn't there to experience it, but I don't think the medical care before me was stable. It's probably the best way to describe it. Again, I don't know the full story. I don't know who was there before me, but it didn't seem like they had someone there for like 3 to 5 seasons, kind of thing. So yeah, just stability. I think just being the same person, being the person that people can count on, really.
Stability for the club, but stability for yourself as well.
Yeah, it's first job as well. Need a bit of money. No, it's like no first job. So yeah, just I suppose just carve a path, set my own expectations. Accomplish goals. Probably, like I said, the main one was I think the first like career goal was probably like just a season in rugby, a season in some sort of sport. So yeah, obviously take that one off pretty quickly. But yeah, the main one was just stability. Just the same person week in, week out, same person all the games.
What challenges did you face when you first started at Wasps? Like as a professional, I mean.
Yeah, probably confidence. Like you've got, I suppose any medical professional can probably relate. You got all these people kind of coming to you, and you're like, it's your first few months out in the real world. So, pretty confidence was the best one. But that I knew that was something that would only come with like repetition, time, hours put in. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest challenge. I think the other one, it didn't happen, but I was mindful of it. Is like fresh-faced 21-year-old coming into a rugby club with when 95% of the people are older. Obviously, as I was kind of growing with the club, there's been a few people added to the list. The list that are younger than me. But I think the biggest challenge I probably saw age-wise was someone that was the same age. I think. Is different. If I'm telling a 31-year-old, like in my head, that was different to, cool, we're both 22. I'm telling you to do this, or cool, let's get you on this rehab, or no, mate, cool, definite concussion, something like that. You're out for, at the time, maybe it was 19-day protocol, I think. So, like, I think I thought if people knew about my age and I might have been the same age or younger than them, they wouldn't respect me as much.
So did you think it was harder to be taken seriously by people nearer to your age than people older than you?
Yeah, I think definitely, yeah. Just because people be like, no, mate, we're the same age, or like, you're 2 weeks older than me, I'm not going to listen to you. That kind of thing. Whereas quite often you might go to the dentist, or you might go to the GP, and you've got people that are younger than you but are treating you. So I think the same age thing was probably a big concern. But I didn't make my age known until a few months in. When luckily I got respect to everyone.
Yeah, so it was just sort of at the start kind of thing, though, isn't it? It's just sort of like something that evaporates as time goes by.
Yeah.
So this was something I really wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
So obviously, like as a medical professional and things like that, you're gonna see a lot of not nice things.
Yeah.
I'm not. So before you think, I'm not going into what was the worst thing you've seen.
Yeah, mate, ask away.
But I mean that's easy. That's an easy question. But what was the how was it for you, and how did you feel when you saw? So I'm talking pitch side. What's our playing someone?
Yeah.
And bad tackle, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's the first experience that you had where you saw something very serious? Like, I'm not saying the most serious thing you've ever seen. But like the first time you see an injury or some kind of thing that was very serious, as like in the sidelines.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? And if you want to tell us what it was, feel free.
Pretty two instances. One was that game that I was actually on the helping out replacement supervisor. We were playing Bracknell away. That was the Long March stuff. Unfortunately a guy had an ACL rupture, I'm pretty sure. I just he was just in a lot of pain. So kind of frozen, just didn't really know what to do. But like, you know, you put in that situation again, and I would have been fine.
But yeah, at that time, your first fresh face Morgan, fresh Physio Morgan.
Oh
like,
yeah.
What was going through your head?
Nothing really. Like just freezing. Was
it freezing in like a state of shock or in a state of?
I suppose so. Just not really like. Suppose you kind of grow into it. You develop your own procedures.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you've seen hundreds of different things now, but I mean, it's always that first one that sort of kind of make or breaks or changes the perception of what you want to do.
Yeah. Luckily it was only an ACL rupture and not something more serious. Just like luckily they had someone who kind of stepped in, and we're having a chat afterwards, and we just discussed a few things and
a bit of reassurance.
I suppose so. She was like, "How long have you been with these lot?" And I'm like, "Honestly, just today. Like, I'm still a student." And obviously, like, I've been supervised. But yeah, and I was like, yeah, literally just, or maybe I wasn't a student at that point. Actually, I think I graduated. I think it was. I'm incorrect. That was after I'd graduated, but it was in that limbo period of like graduating to what's next kind of thing. That's pretty. And obviously, just having someone else on the sidelines.
What about that situation made you freeze up? Was it the pain that the person was in, or was it like how maybe their leg or however did it look out of place and it looked a bit?
No, from what I remember, like it was absolutely fine. It was more just just not knowing what to do.
Okay.
Can they walk? Can they not walk? Like just all sorts of procedures from there. I think. Just not knowing, not having any idea of what to do, because it was first like a serious injury, I suppose.
But then was part of that, sorry to cut you off a little bit, but was part of that, because obviously you said when you were in placement, you were doing things a lot more by the book. I mean, not that you break the rules now, but you're following something strictly. Was being in that kind of circumstance, was that playing over your head in terms of what to do, because you're sort of seeing something?
Not really. My degree doesn't really prep you for pitch side, if that makes sense. Like it does, but you don't have like a pitch side module. You don't have a like you have your trauma care training, all that sort of stuff. You have every other thing that supports pitch side. You don't have a module where again, how much can you cram into 3 years? But you don't have a module where you're kind of assessed on your pitch side capabilities. So it was probably literally just
unknown.
Yeah, it's like exactly that. So it is. I don't know. It's like when you're you can relate when you're a dad and your kid hurts himself for the first time. You're like, what do I do? That was probably it. And all the stuff that I was doing by the book beforehand was like in the treatment room assessing an ankle sprain. Like it's very, very different doing that in a treatment room to got a guy in front of me who's very much possibly just ruptured his ACL.
So moving it forward to at WASP, where you're not really being supervised. I mean, not in the same kind of way. It's your complete lead on this. The first time you saw something serious happen in a game at WASPs, what was that like? And how did it compare to your experience when it happened at Welsh?
Completely different. I just didn't have time to think, so I just kind of snapped into action, really. Not gonna name the guy, but
of course not.
It was during a game, obviously, and I think it was either like 2 knocks to the head. One right after the other. I think it was like a knee, then a shin, and then she just fell straight on his front. And like it's bad when the opposite team's player is saying ref start. That was poor guy. I mean, he was absolutely fine afterwards. He's playing now, plays most games of the season. I think seeing that and obviously just clear loss of consciousness did get better. but yeah, just waiting for the ambulance to arrive and all that sort of stuff.
So what was the procedure when you saw one of your players that you in your under your care?
Luckily, I was literally like 5 meters away at the time, so yeah, good place to be. But yeah, like first thing, pitch out when you see anything like that is like maintain stability of his head in terms of like if he's fallen. Obviously, if he's knocked out, he's not breathing. It's different kind of scenarios, things you work around that. But yeah, it was more in case there's any sort of like neck fracture, you basically go in whatever position his head. I think his head was like this. It's quite awkward to go into. But yeah, you basically just need to hold his head. There's another way you can do it, but because he was kind of like turn like this, I couldn't.
So it's like what on his side with his.
Yeah, so I think from memory again, it's like 3-4 years ago. I think he'd fallen on his front, and then his head was like twisted to the side.
Oh gosh!
But whilst he was regaining consciousness, like again, there's another way you can kind of go in. You meant to go in like basically kind of like this to stop them moving the head, and obviously. Yeah, maintain the stability is fine. But again, like, when he's like this, I can't do that. So, yeah, then luckily the coach at the time had done like a similar sort of trauma course. So whilst I was speaking to the player, trying to get him to, and he was like kind of coming to, which was very, very, very good sign. Yeah, the coach was like, basically you got to do a technique or a log roll where I control it because I'm the one holding his head, but you've got kind of like 3 people. And they, because the guy was this way, they basically sit this side and pull him over, as when I say. But yeah, luckily the coach had done that sort of training. So he could kind of help me out in that aspect. But there were a few other things, and yeah, unfortunately, ambulance was cool. Guy was absolutely fine. But yeah, I think we do quite a rigorous training on that. So yeah, and you're examined on your response to a scenario like that. So really going into a scenario like that, it was just kind of yeah, clicking into the groove, into motion, and not thinking, literally just straight in.
So this transitions me smoothly into an area I wanted to talk about, which is concussions. Concussions are a big deal.
Yeah, man.
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
Very scary. Something not to tread lightly on.
Yeah.
Big or small.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, in sports, contact sports like rugby, as I said, the more you expose yourself, the higher the risk. Like the way I said, you're risking injury walking.
Yeah.
With rugby, I feel like the risk is higher for concussions. Like So you know, on a technical term, okay, not too technical, but a concussion essentially is what your brain being shaken, really.
Traumatic brain injury is probably the best way to describe it.
Okay.
We could go into all sorts of
fancy.
Yeah. That's stuff for me to look at on a Monday morning with a coffee.
Yeah. But essentially, that's what a concussion is.
Yeah, it's traumatic brain injury,
and that comes from impact.
Could be anything. Sometimes you can get like whiplash associated. I'm no concussion expert, but I don't think that's as prevalent as your direct impact ones you see.
But you've got it can be impact or it can be
it can be. So like sometimes you can get, I believe, like whiplash associated concussion from car crashes. Again, arguably you're getting some sort of impact if you're going this way. You're getting some sort of impact from the headrest behind you. But yeah, most of them tend to be some sort of impact. I hit my head, he kicked me, something like that.
Yeah. So obviously, concussion isn't like the same as getting an injury. Obviously, I mean, in terms of like, if you hurt your knee on the pitch, you can sort of find that you hurt your knee, but a concussion, like, there's a bit more like.
It's complex. It's the best way to describe it.
Yeah,
like,
it's not straightforward.
Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at. Like if you've got a hamstring tear and you can't run, then it's pretty self-explanatory.
But with a concussion, you don't know how bad. You can't really constantly measure the concussion.
Yeah, it's subjective.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's probably the best way to describe it. And it presents differently. It can present differently each time. We could go play a game tomorrow. Both of us could get a concussion, but you experience something completely different to me. any other example, really. Like I said, it's subjective. I think it's probably the best way to.
Would you say it's like a subjective spectrum? In terms of like, you've got the lower end.
Not really. Like if you got a concussion, you got a concussion. If you've got, it's still traumatic brain injury at the end of the day. I think if you're all the symptoms under the sun, or you just got a minor headache.
Do you feel like concussions are or have been historically a thing that have not been looked at or taken seriously as?
Again, it's before my time. I mean, you can kind of see in all the news and all that sort of stuff, and all the, I suppose, lawsuits coming out, that it wasn't necessarily like it was a thing, but it probably wasn't investigated as much as it is now, and it wasn't managed as well as it is now. It's quite a hard thing to measure and to test.
Of course.
Like you're almost kind of working in retrospect quite a lot of the time. It's a bit rubbish, but you kind of need concussions to happen to
understand,
to research them. I believe. I mean, I don't know of any other ways.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a concussion expert, but like the only reason why we know how and why concussions present is because there have been concussions that have been studied. So it's a difficult one to look at.
So let's talk a little bit about the protocols that were born from concussions happening that you have to use now on game day if we're in an unfortunate situation where someone does suffer a concussion.
So how in depth do you want it? It's my thing. So when I first started working in rugby, I believe it was a 19-day protocol return. So that was day one, starting the next day, assuming you're playing on a Saturday. So in most cases, it was again symptom dependent. In most cases, you could return on that third weekend. A few things have changed now, because I don't know what it's called, but there's basically like a board that meet every 4 years or so, give or take, and they will evaluate like the most recent concussion evidence, and it's basically like a concussion convention. Basically, it's probably the best way to describe it. And then every so often they update policies and all that sort of stuff. So the one that the government released last year, for all grassroots sports, tennis, golf, football, whatever you want. It's 21 days to return to sports now. I believe that's for all ages. Whereas the previous protocol was 19 for senior, and then I think it was something like 23. I think was what it was for I think it's 18 and below. Or maybe it's 19 and below, 20 and below, something like that. But there's a few things you can use instantly in the scenario. There's a group of questions called the Maddox questions. So you attempt to get the player to orient themselves in like time, place, and a few other questions as well. So it can be things like, do you know where we are today? What's the date? What half is it? All those sorts of things. But they're not the all and end of that. So that's basically to just assess their disorientation, their alertness, all that sort of stuff. So it's not a case of cool, you answered all 5 questions correctly, you can get back on the pitch. It's not that at all. It's just a tool to help you kind of assess
see the extremities of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's
from a certain perspective, anyway.
Yeah, I've mainly, from experience, I've mainly seen the use them to assess kind of like levels of disorientation. I think there's a few other things that you can check, but like I said, they're not the be all and end all. They're not, as I said, you answer 5 questions correctly, you can return back.
Yeah. So it's just to see, is it sort of like, is it that bad where?
Yeah, like a good memory recall is another one as well.
Because there was a case, so 10 years ago, World Cup final.
Rugby or football?
No, football.
Football. Okay.
So it was Germany versus Argentina in Rio, and I think most football fans might know, might not know. But there was a German midfielder. So it was Germany versus Argentina in the final. The German midfielder. The reason I'm asking like that, right? So there was this German midfielder. I think it was Christopher Kramer or whatever. He played for German team. I think it was Wolfsburg or something.
Okay.
And concussion. He had a concussion.
Yeah, right.
And then I think it got to the point where he had no idea where he was. He didn't know he was. He didn't know he was playing in the World Cup final. Okay. And it got to the point where like I saw I don't know how true it was in terms of like if this player, so basically one German player, Thomas Müller, was saying how he was congratulating him for winning another World Cup, but he was referring to another footballer, Gerd Müller from the 70s. So like, my point is, I mean, I probably would have helped if I'd done a bit more research on this prior to speaking, but it was bad. It was bad. He didn't remember where he was. He didn't remember what was going on, and I think it probably took a bit too long to sub him off.
I can't speak of football.
No. I'm just talking in terms of it being bad. Like,
I mean, there's been a few things recently that have happened in football that have probably escalated the importance of concussion awareness in football. Like a goalkeeper smacked his head against a post or something like that in the most recent World Cup, or
no, but there was a situation. I don't know if it's the same one we're going to be talking about, but 2018 Champions League final, goalkeeper made 2 howler of mistakes. And people were saying that he was concussed. During the game, and he was playing.
Yeah, it's definitely something to do with the Qatar World Cup. But like concussion protocol in football, I think it's completely different. And professional football,
of course.
Amateur football is completely different. But I think it's not really something that's probably probably not something that people are aware of, because you just don't think.
The reason I was saying this football stuff that I do sort of know about, like not know, but it's because of linking it back to the questions that you have to ask.
Quite often you see people disoriented. Quite often people don't have a memory recall or longer than 30 seconds. But then also quite often people have just got a headache, or they've got they're just a bit dizzy, a bit sick. So it's kind of like my job to know any sort of symptoms that can present, really.
I think the thing with concussions in amateur sport, because obviously you was the one dealing with me when I had my concussions in rugby. Was that for me? It was probably, I don't think anyone knows they're having a concussion when they're having, not anyone. Me, personal experience. I didn't know I was having a concussion when I was having a concussion.
I think that plays into the subjectivity a bit. Like, if you're having all the symptoms in the world, then I think it's probably easier to, like, you yourself, it's probably easier to think, something's not right. Whereas if you've just got a headache for a few days, you think you've got a cold, you think that you've got hay fever. It could be absolutely anything. Hungover from the night before, which is another kettle of fish. But
so, would you say the main challenge of concussions and concussions in sport is the not main, but one of the main is the subjectivity of it?
Like it's slowly changing, but so often you hear, he wasn't knocked out, he's not concussed. But I think, if I'm correct, in 10% of concussions or less than, there's a loss of consciousness. I think
less than 10%.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that range. It's not like, you got a concussion, but 80% of those are knockouts. It's not at all. Most boxers are concussed after a fight.
Of course.
I'm completely talking out of turn because it's not my sport, but repeated impact to the head, so you'd assume that there is some sort of lingering effect there. It's a very, very difficult topic. But like a lot of people are doing a lot of work to raise the importance and raise the awareness of it. Like now is probably the best time to pick up a contact sport.
Yeah, in terms of safety.
Yeah, compared to 5 years ago, compared to 10 years ago.
I mean, I guess we're just sort of trying to strike that. I think at this point, the professionals and the people in charge and the people that work around it, they're probably just trying to strike that balance of not like taking something too lightly.
Yeah.
And but then taking everything seriously.
Yeah, as you say, you got to strike the perfect middle ground.
Which is the more concussions that are had, the more you can find it.
Like, unfortunately, they're going to happen. There's so many factors at play, and such little time to deal with it. That, like in a game scenario, that like ultimately it's going to happen. People say, like World Rugby are doing all they can to make the game safer. But there becomes a limit of how much safer can you make it.
And there's only so much you can control.
How much safer can you make boxing? Take the punches out of boxing.
Yeah.
You remove the sport from the sport. It's a little bit different. Like if you look at the 2007 World Cup final, look at that compared to the most recent one. It's a completely different game. There's so many.
In terms of what?
Just in terms of first of all play.
The style of.
Style of play.
You mean actual rugby playing?
Yes. Yeah, but like it's just so much more loose. There's so much. I suppose more dangerous acts being committed. Whereas what you get penalised for now, i.e., yellow card, red card, player sent off to be assessed for 12 minutes with the doctor, which wouldn't happen in 2007. But like people forget rugby's a young sport. Okay, it's been around for a while.
It's a young professional sport. It only became professional in 91.
Yeah,
something like
right. So, and you've got such a small cohort to. It's not as if we have 70 years of research.
Yeah.
Right. Every sport has its teething issues. I'm sure that there was a time where boxers were using heavier gloves and it was deemed too unsafe.
I think this is the thing with boxing. I feel like, from what I've been told, obviously not a boxer, but from our good friend Ads.
Yeah.
Previous episode, check it out if you haven't.
Nice little plug there.
I feel like the heavier gloves.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not
speculate.
Let's not. I don't like to speculate too much. It's a boxer can tell me something properly. Or a boxing coach, whatever. But from what Ads told me, the heavier the gloves, that's not heavier, but heavier actually. Yeah, they weigh more.
Yeah.
Safer, but because of more padding, more cushioning on the glove.
Yeah, potentially actually. Yeah, I see that.
Obviously the lighter, you're more exposed in the fist, aren't you?
Yeah, so, okay.
I mean, but then again, that's probably now.
Yeah.
I reckon 10 years ago it probably wasn't like that. But I feel like concussions is quite a what's the word? A grey area in all sports. I think it's a grey area in all sports.
Yeah, it's definitely.
No matter how long, like whether young or old.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming clearer.
Yeah.
Every day we know more.
I think what summed it up was England versus Wales 2022 World Cup. Neco Williams gets the ball, smacks him bang in the forehead, like a few minutes, and then they're like, okay, just come off, we're not risking it. Kind of sums up how much the player safety approach has improved. This is football, though. I mean,
right? Yeah, okay. Like you just never know. And then there's a few things that can make it worse, but the whole reason why you've got that like immediate removal from players is you've actually got like a 48-hour symptom window, so like you can feel absolutely fine now. So
in terms of just before we move on from concussions, I'll talk my experience, our experience, because you dealt with me. I had it. Like it was for people that don't know, the protocol's probably changed by then, because that was 3 years ago nearly.
You would have been under 19 day one.
Yeah, I think our coach Martin in particular was a lot more conscious, because I just started playing rugby at the time, and things like that. Obviously, you wasn't there when it happened, but it happened.
Yeah,
Don't know how it
I think
happened.
that was before I joined.
It was like, I think I saw you, like, that was the Thursday session, and then
And then
on the Saturday, the Kilburn game was the Saturday. Like, but yeah, it happened. Whatever. I think Martin said 2 weeks of absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks of nothing. Like no running, nothing strenuous.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting you say that. So you know how I said about how this board meets every so often. So rewind a few years ago, you had the which obviously we now know more. A couple of years ago, it was dead, like 2 weeks, nothing.
Yeah.
Get back to work, get back to life. That's it. That's what you can do. Come day 15, I think it was day 15. That's when you can start doing like graded activity. But basically, what you do is you go from like 2 weeks of nothing to like a really, really intense week, where it would literally be like they graded it in different stages. But let's say it's stage 4, whatever. It would literally be like stage 4A on Monday or Tuesday, stage 4B on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. And basically, you'd kind of almost be time pressured in that week for me to have the final say. Yes, he can play on Saturday, because if you're at most clubs, you've got 2 training sessions. But then that means that I need to get you to do something Monday before you can then do something Tuesday. When you can do the Tuesday stuff, I then need to see how you are on the Wednesday morning, see if there's any symptom recurrence, to then for you to do more on Wednesday. You get the gist, right? Whereas now it's actually changed. So now you actually only have 8 days off.
8 days of nothing.
Yeah, 8 days. Well, kind of.
Not nothing, but no sport.
Yeah, effectively. So let's say, if you use a classic example, concussion happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
Day 0 Saturday, day 1 Sunday. When you there's a few other things you've got to have in place first. But when you kind of get to Thursday, Friday of that next week, so day 5, day 6, that's when you can kind of start implementing some light cardio, 10, 15-minute jog. And then from there, there's basically like a stepwise progression. But as I said, you're going from 14 days of nothing to actually you can start doing little bits on day 5, day 6 now.
Yeah.
Day 8 is the earliest you can get back to non-contact training. Before that was day probably 15, 16. Day 15, dependent on symptom recurrence. There's a big kind of grey area in that as well, in terms of it's not going to be different. It's not going to be the same for the two of us.
Yeah.
But day 15 is when you can get back to contact training, and then day 21 minimum is return to.
That's now, or that was before?
That's now. Okay, yeah. So now. Whereas before you literally had 2 weeks dead of doing nothing. A couple of years go by, protocols have changed. It's now actually only 8 days.
I think the thing with my situation as well, this was more. This is probably where the subjectivity was a big thing. I don't think Martin felt comfortable. I feel bad for just saying his name like casually, but yeah, coach.
Yeah.
Martin. He didn't feel comfortable to just throw me in. There was a lot more, I think, from his side of things. Obviously, he trusted your opinion and things like that, but from his side of things, there was like a bigger duty of care. In terms of, he's seen that I've just started the sport, and he doesn't want me to do something that will make it difficult for me to play the sport in the future, or make it difficult for me to live my life. Yeah,
100%. It's a big injury, man. It gets played out quite a bit, but I'd argue that.
I mean, you're still walking kind of in a way.
Yeah. I'd much rather break my foot than have a concussion, if I'm honest.
So
bones will heal, your brain won't.
Yeah,
well, it will, but like this,
it's different.
There's lasting effects, right?
And you're not really meant to injure your brain. So moving on, but not moving on so much, because I do want to talk about Wandsworth Demons.
Yeah,
that's the name of that. I pay attention.
My one true love.
So but just before we go into that, so I'm talking any level of I'm talking mainly at Wasps, because that's where you've had like the main responsibilities. And then obviously if something coincides with Wandsworth Demons, feel free to don't feel limited. So that communication and relationship with the coach, the coaches of like, because I mean it's really easy, whether it's a concussion or whether it's any kind of muscular or skeletal injury. How challenging or how okay, first of all, how important, but then how challenging as well is that relationship and that communication with the coach? Because obviously, let's say star player gets injured, we've got big game in we got a big game in 2 weeks that we want him back there for, and the coach thinks differently from what you think of when he should be back, whether you think he should be back later or earlier.
Yeah.
How important is that communication with the coach, and what kind of challenges can you face?
Relationship importance is pretty fundamental. You have a good relationship with the coach, you're not respected, you're not going to be listened to. So that's probably the big one. Challenges you could face: if coach doesn't listen to you, coach puts a player on the pitch, player gets injured again, then it all falls back on you. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle, right? Because it's then kind of, why wasn't he ready? But actually, it's nothing to do with me because I'm not as unsafe to play. I've been quite blessed with the coaches I've worked with, in that my word is final, regardless of whether we need someone for the weekend, star player, not star player, whatever. If we have to go with 17 on the weekend rather than 18, we go with 17 on the weekend rather than 18. Like, it's just the way it is. So yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge you could face. You got the other. Actually, to be fair, you got the other one where the player tries to say that they're okay to play. So that's where you kind of need to have. I think it's quite a difficult thing for new grads. You need to have balls, basically. It's probably the best
to tell them no.
Yeah, effectively.
I said that.
Yeah. So you can get, not kind of throwing gender around or anything. You could see it from two perspectives. In terms of, what's the best way to word it? Two guys butting heads, myself and player, or to be fair, gender doesn't come into it equally. You just need balls, regardless of who you are, where you work. You just, whether that's with the player or whether that's with the coach or both. You just need to have the guts and just say no.
Not worry about pissing someone off.
Yeah, exactly. Because ultimately, if they then get injured, they're going to come running to you anyway.
Yeah, so why'd you let me play?
Yeah, right. I mean, there's been a few instances where I know where, going back to the gender thing, where I know where females in my position have been undermined because of, because of their gender, because they're not respected as much. But that was quickly solved. That was only one player. So again, I've been lucky enough to never go through that.
You've been quite respected in your position.
Yeah, so I've never really, touch wood, had to deal with any sort of those issues, but I've spoken to people that have had to deal with those issues, and it's not fun. Because again, it comes back to me at the end of the day, me or the person in my position.
It's
so
it's
not fun.
It's like the safety of the player, but then it's like you're obviously you don't want to be undermined.
Yeah,
and it's like not safe. Safety of the player, but then you kind of have your own reputation on the line.
Yeah, 100% of the time.
Out of something that's not in your control, but the decision of someone else.
Yeah, true. But sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to treat them like a kid throwing toys out the pram.
Let them have their tantrum.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So if they want to go and play and they go re-injure themselves,
and that's probably at any level, at any sport.
Possibly. Yeah.
I mean, if it's not safe and they're not happy with it, they got to accept that it's not safe, whether they like it or not. Yeah,
realistically, there's only, in my position, there's only so much that we can do. We can advise, we can guide, but we can't force someone not to play. There's always the option to play. I will
I mean, I'm sure it's an issue in a lot of professional sports as well. Take the painkiller and take the painkiller. Get on with it.
Yeah, possibly. Possibly. Again, I can't speak from that that side of things, but maybe when you've got a really big amateur game in 2 weeks, where you've got the Champions Cup, semi-final in 2 weeks, and you need Ellis Genge back. Like, it's a very different story, isn't it? Right. But yeah, maybe when I make it to the pros, we can have this chat again.
we'll be. I have faith in that journey.
Thanks, man. We'll see. We'll see.
So yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I think relationships between people, rapport, big thing in life, and then what you do, and how you go forward.
Yeah, you got to know your players.
Yeah,
you really got to know your players.
So, guys, this is just a bit of a cut-off point. So this was part 1 of my episode with Morgan, with part 2 coming out shortly soon. But yeah, big love, like and subscribe. See you soon.
Where the band's at?